So imagine yourself as a young child who likes to read, who has learning disabilities and speech issues, but manages to always overcome them, to work really hard to teach themselves things that no one in their life can teach them. Imagine yourself as a child who likes peace and quiet, can be anywhere by themselves and be happy, who can put headphones on and lose themselves to music, who can sit down and lose themselves to writing a fictional story, who is always thinking, always pondering, always imagining, but within a rooted, logical world. And this child notices patterns, and they see and they understand things that the adults around them would much rather they didn't. And in fact, the adults in this child life dismiss them as just another stupid child who doesn't understand the world. This child doesn't understand anything because they're just a child. But as this child ages, the dismissiveness from the adults turn into aggression. Now they see this child as rebellious, a misfit, a problem. They tell this child that there's something wrong with them, off about them, inherently bad about them even, that they will corrupt other children, that they are a bad influence to other children. That even though this child in particular is immune to the peer pressuring that other kids are fallen to, the adults still say that they are the problem. And this young child does not understand. Why is it so inherently bad for them to listen instead of being reactionary? For them to learn instead of going towards something with absolutely no plan? For them to ask questions because they want to understand something? For them to operate in a different way from the other children around them, but that protects them from situations and from people that would hurt them? Because this child is logical, and this child is able to look at patterns in situations other people have gone through. They can read and they can learn, and they don't have to experience it themselves. And this saves them from people and from situations that hurt their friends, but this child avoided because they knew better. Why is it so inherently wrong to know who you are? To not bend or break for the countless of people in this world that will try to mold and shape you? Is individuality not what people actually want? And this kid thinks to themselves, why do the programs in school teach and preach about standing up for yourself, about not caving into peer pressure, and yet all the adults around me are continuously trying to peer pressure me into being something that I don't even understand, therefore I cannot be it. They want me to move and act in a way that I cannot move and act. Is that not peer pressure? And as this child ages and turns into a teenager, and they watch the world around them, and they continuously have to defend themselves from fully grown adults who are insistent that there's something wrong with them and love to bully children, as they watch their friends repeatedly make the same mistakes and never learn, never think about anything other than the direct present that they're in and how something in that moment makes them feel, the child comes to the realization that while they have the full belief that they are not the only person in the world who thinks the way that they do, that they are in fact different from the people around them, that the reason why everyone around them felt there was something wrong with them was because they were a cat in a dog's world, and everyone could tell that they did not fit in. They wanted them to bark like a dog, but this child was a cat. They couldn't. They could not mold and shape themselves into being and thinking in the way everyone around them wanted them to. And that was seen as defiance. That was seen as a problem. That was seen as a road that would lead to addiction, to crime, to dropping out of school, to all sorts of things. And this child, who's now a teenager, is not any closer to understanding the people around them. They are just as baffled, and they're just as confused. But the difference now is that they have embraced that they would rather be by themselves than have all of these people continuously beat down on them. Therefore, this teenager withdraws themselves. They become even quieter. They stop trying to connect to the people around them. It's either this person will become their friend or this person won't. They say no to things that their family wants them to do. They put up boundaries. They keep things to themselves. They write and they draw and they listen to music. And they continue to stay home if they want to stay home. And they allow the people in their lives to draw whatever conclusions that they want to draw. But it does hurt. There is a sense of loneliness that this teenager doesn't just feel alone, is quite literally alone. And just maybe, if they can actually understand why the people who are supposed to know them best, who are supposed to love them unconditionally, view them the way that they do, respond to them the way that they do, maybe if they could just understand, they could fix the problem. They can find the solution. And this causes depression, and this causes anxiety. Ever since they were a child, they suffered from nightmares, and these nightmares continued. They saw things in the world and knew things about the world that they could not just forget. Their logical mind and curiosity would not let them shut out all the bad things around them that they've witnessed. They needed to understand. They needed to know. They were always asking why. And they had no one around them that could help. So within this time of isolation, within these moments of loneliness, the teenager watched and learned, and they grew. And much like how they conquered their learning disability and their stutter, and they overcame their lisp, and they dealt with their dyslexia, and though they didn't know it at the time, they were managing undiagnosed ADHD. Though their past and their traumas and the things that they experienced that the adults in their lives completely dismissed because they were just a young, stupid child, though it plagued them in their nightmares, if they could just understand, if they could just learn, then it could all be fixed. They could manage to fix whatever it is that needed to be fixed. But as the teenager turns into an adult, they come to a realization one day that the reason is so superficial. And because the child who turned into a teenager, who is now an adult, is an INTJ personality type, they completely missed the most obvious detail, and they thought much deeper than they needed to think. They theorized more than they needed to theorize because the answer was so superficial that it never crossed their mind. Had they just looked like everyone else, no one would have looked at them long enough to notice any differences about them. No one would have seen how logical they are, how they think and plan out things so far in advance. It's almost as if they're not even living in the present. that they can sit in silence and not move or talk for hours on end. And that's when they're happiest. No one would have looked long enough to notice any of these things if the INTJ was aware of their physical appearance and how they physically came off to other people, because they don't live in the present. They live in the future. They don't live in the physical world. They live within the plans that they're making that is in the future. People felt challenged and belittled when this INTJ would just look at them, not say a word, and then walk away. If this INTJ did not have complete tunnel vision, maybe they would have noticed how superficial the people around them were, that the people around them were not looking deeper than their physical appearance. They were looking at their clothes, their hair, their facial expressions. They were looking at a child who then became a teenager, who then became an adult, that did not respond in the way that felt normal to them. But because they are an INTJ, once they finally answered their lifelong question of why, they decided they didn't care. Whew. Okay, so before I go, I know I've been away for a while. This is probably a weird video to come back and do. I doubt it will get much traction. That's okay. I just wanted to tell you guys a story. Clearly, I'm the INTJ in the story. It's a very Cliff Notes version of my past and history growing up, but I just wanted to share some of the ways that I thought and navigated my life, and the ultimate conclusion that I came to, which is, I don't care. As you can see, I have not changed. And that's okay. There's nothing inherently wrong with who we are, with who anyone is in any personality type, including the people that I dealt with. Their personality type is not to blame. Never okay to bully a child. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do have essays and research and other video ideas that I will be recording and editing and coming out with soon. So if you are still with me, still on the channel and stuff like that, I look forward to seeing you guys soon on something that is maybe a little bit more entertaining, but I figured this would at the very least be revealing, and INTJ being vulnerable, that must mean I'm not an INTJ. So if you want to leave that down in the comments and help the algorithm push my video, I am a-okay with that. So with that said, I will see you guys in the next video, which I hope to have out to you soon. Bye.